Good evening and thank you for joining us for KREM News 10 at 10, where we give you more news in less time. Let's get started, and we begin with some breaking news tonight. We have an update on the deadly road rage shooting on I-90 from last Friday night. State troopers say they've arrested the suspected gunman. Washington State Patrol arrested 28-year-old Trevin Lewis. He is charged with second-degree murder in the death of 34-year-old David Kniffley. Kniffley died from a gunshot wound to the back. He was heading eastbound on I-90 near the Thor Freya exit. Lewis was then booked into the Spokane County Jail. If his name sounds familiar, it's because back in 2014, Lewis was convicted of manslaughter after killing Frank Mata, a neighbor who tried breaking up a house party. When Mata confronted Lewis's girlfriend, Lewis punched Mata in the head, leading to his death. He'd been sentenced to 10 years in prison, but was released early. Because he is a felon, Lewis was also not allowed to have a gun. Tonight, he is being held on $1 million bond. Well, a UPS driver delivering packages in Grant County today saved a little girl from drowning. Brian Walters was on his regular route near Soap Lake when he revived the 7-year-old girl. KREM 2's Kyle Simchuk just talked to that UPS driver. He is live in the newsroom tonight with what he had to say. Kyle?
When he actually just got off his shift, it turns out this UPS driver is also a volunteer firefighter and former reserve police officer. He says there was a lot of people standing over the girl who had just been pulled from a swimming pool. The crowd was panicking, but his first responder instincts kicked in right away.
She was completely blue, unresponsive, not breathing, no pulse that I could find at the moment.
A terrifying scene at a Soap Lake resort this afternoon as a 7-year-old girl was pulled from a swimming pool.
Nobody really knew how long she'd been underwater.
UPS driver Brian Walters is familiar with the Smokeyam resort.
It's a pretty frequent stop for me, usually 5 days a week.
But today's delivery turned into a life or death emergency. He was about to leave the resort office when a man walked in and mentioned something about a drowning.
He kind of pointed over towards where the pool was, and I was like, oh, okay. So I went to run out the front door, and there was a gentleman carrying this girl.
Walters ran over and began doing CPR, desperately trying to save the little girl's life.
I did CPR for about a minute, and then she started puking up or coughing up the water. A lot of water was coming out, so we put her in the recovery position on her side to allow her to get rid of that water. She still wasn't breathing at that point, so we did that for just a little bit, and then after that, we went back into CPR for another minute or so. The mom was there. She did come in right when we laid her down, and she kind of tried to grab her or hold her or something when I was assessing her. So I kind of just put my arm to stop her.
Eventually, the 7-year-old started gasping for air.
And it actually went as smooth as probably possible.
Paramedics arrived a short time later. The girl was airlifted to a local hospital. Her condition is unknown, but deputies say she was awake and crying. The Grant County Sheriff's Office says Walters saved her life.
If I ever get a chance to see her, say hi to her, I'd love to. I'm praying for them, and my thoughts and prayers are definitely for them.
And even after saving this girl's life, Walters finished his shift delivering all the packages in his truck, getting off a few hours late tonight. In the newsroom, Kyle Simchuk, KREM 2 News.
All right, Kyle, thank you very much. My goodness, hats off to him. All right, let's talk weather. Today was another hot day all across the inland Northwest as we saw temperatures back in the 90s today. Meteorologist Michelle Boss in for weather tonight. Michelle, what's the rest of the week have in store for us?
There is more where that heat came from. In fact, we'll likely see temperatures in the 90s again tomorrow, but let's take a quick look ahead at the weekend. Saturday, looking for highs in the upper 80s, mostly sunny skies, and then back to the lower 90s on Sunday. Again, mostly sunny. Right now, still pretty warm out there for 10 o'clock at night. Still in the 80s in Spokane, Moses Lake, and Wenatchee, 84 degrees in Lewiston, but some spots have cooled down nicely. 69 in Pullman, down to 63 right now in Deer Park, and 66 in Sandpoint. Not much to say here about the satellite and radar loop. Hardly saw any clouds in the sky today, and certainly no precipitation, and we'll see a few more clouds tomorrow, but should be another dry day across the inland Northwest. Clear skies tonight, mostly sunny skies tomorrow as temperatures head back up into the 90s. We are keeping an eye on the potential for some isolated showers and thunderstorms Thursday night into Friday morning. Could see some dry lightning, so that's a concern there, but should be clearing up by Friday afternoon. 86 degrees on Friday, and then back up into the upper 80s on Saturday.
Sounds good, Michelle. We'll check back in with you later in the broadcast. Well, now to our night beat with a quick look at the day's top stories. Needless to say, the heat is back, and it can certainly have devastating impacts. Last year, more than a dozen people died in Spokane County during that unprecedented heat dome.
Poorer neighborhoods, and unfortunately Spokane has too many of them, end up frequently having less tree coverage, and therefore they're more vulnerable. They may not have an air conditioner, or if they have one, they're not able to run it because of unable to pay the electrical bills.
According to the Spokane County Medical Examiner's Office, 20 people died from heat-related causes last year. Of those deaths, 16 were used by Gonzaga's Climate Center to create an interactive map. Of the deaths mapped, most of the victims were in their 60s and 70s, according to the medical examiner's report. Most of the deaths took place in the victims' homes, which had, quote, inadequate ways of regulating temperature. This past Saturday, a group of volunteers drove through Spokane, mapping the city's hottest neighborhoods using sensors. And the hope is the data generated from that study can then be used to figure out a plan so that the next time Spokane faces a heat wave, everyone can stay safe.
We had to flip-flop through 5 different formulas, I believe it was. And he has some stomach issues, and so he had a hard time on those. And then we found the Gerber Sooth Pro, which is what he's on now. But now that everyone is switching from Similac to something else, you cannot find it anywhere.
The baby formula shortage still impacting families in Spokane. The Abbott Nutrition Factory in Michigan originally shut down all the way back in February, contributing to the national formula shortage. They were expected to have restocked shelves by now, but additional factory closures have caused production delays. One Spokane mom says her baby adjusted to a new formula at the beginning of the shortage, but now that formula is hard to find. She says she spends several hours driving around town looking for the formula that her 4-month-old child needs. Well, starting today, masks are required again on Fairchild Air Force Base. It applies to everyone on base regardless of vaccination status. That mask requirement is in place until further notice. And that was your Night Beat. To learn more about any of these stories, just text us the word night to 509-448-2000 and we'll send them directly to your phone. In other news tonight, the House Select Committee investigating the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol says the Secret Service missed a deadline to turn over text messages sent within the agency on January 5th and January 6th.
Focusing on those critical 187 minutes between when the attack on the Capitol started and when Donald Trump finally issued a video statement asking people to leave the Capitol. That's so important to know what Donald Trump was doing and why he didn't ask people to leave sooner.
The agency says the texts are potentially deleted and irretrievable. The National Archives, which is in charge of securing government documents, has ordered a review of what it calls unauthorized deletion. The Secret Service is promising its full cooperation with the review. Meanwhile, former Deputy National Security Advisor Matt Pottinger and Deputy Press Secretary Sarah Matthews are expected to testify live at tomorrow night's hearing. They were both in the White House during the attack and can help explain what the president was doing. Both resigned immediately after January 6th. Following tomorrow's primetime hearings, we'll have a special edition of KREM 2 News. U.S. Senate candidate Tiffany Smiley visited Comstock Park in Spokane today. She's a Republican running against Senator Patty Murray. This is Smiley's first time running for office. She is a former nurse and an advocate for veterans' rights after her husband was blinded on a military mission. During her speech today, Smiley told voters that she will fight for issues like reducing inflation, crime, homelessness, and opioids.
You know, something that isn't often talked about, and I've talked with mayors all over Washington state about this, is the fentanyl crisis. We have a huge fentanyl crisis in this state, and it's killing our kids.
Smiley is from Pasco and graduated from Whitworth College. She will continue to campaign across the state leading up to the primary election on August 2nd. She is hoping to get the GOP nomination to then take on incumbent Senator Patty Murray. Well, 3 women are running against incumbent Larry Haskell for Spokane County prosecutor, and we want to help you get to know all of them. So, KREM 2's Amanda Rowley met with each candidate over tea to learn about where they stand on the important issues. Here is a preview of tonight's Tea with Amanda Rowley and her interview with candidate Stephanie Olson. And one of the topics Amanda asked her about is if current Spokane County prosecutor Larry Haskell's wife's racist comments have compromised the prosecutor's office.
They were named one of the most racist prosecutor's offices in the country. And it's just not acceptable. It's not acceptable for us. It's not acceptable for victims or offenders. I will tell you that I would not accept racism or bigotry or sexism of any kind in my own home. And I will tell you, I will never accept it in an office that I run.
That is just a snippet of Amanda's conversation with Olson. You can watch the full interview on the KREM 2 YouTube page. As we continue to interview these candidates, we will continuously upload them to our YouTube page. And that was your KREM 2 News 10 at 10, where you get more news in less time. But don't go to bed just yet. In a KREM 2 investigation, we look into court documents of a lawsuit against the Spokane County Sheriff's Office and why the Sheriff's Office is asking to have that lawsuit tossed out. We are back in just 90 seconds.